Alright, I just finished like all of the paintings I had in mind for the art series. This will be more of a discussion about like the last couple paintings, and then I will release some sort of like final like closure statements once I have like all the pieces together. But essentially um I like went back and forth. I just finished the last pieces of like my collection, and I was gonna kind of like just talk about the art process for these paintings, and then I'll make like an additional video that kind of just like concludes the series as a whole. But I went back and forth a lot on like how to wrap up the series, and it was like really like fun and interesting to me to like actually think about like, oh, like what do I want, like what is the statement that I want to make, and then like commit to that, and then a month later be like, wait, that's like the wrong message, I'm not in that headspace anymore, I want to change how I want to conclude this. And I just kept doing this like back and forth for a while. And so originally, like the first piece and also the like piece I want to conclude with was like two canvases like that were like back to back, just like showing a silhouette of me like staring up at the sky. I always wanted to be grayscale. I originally wanted to be more realistic, and the intention was like, when I first started conceiving of this like series earlier this year, I always just thought like, hey, like I really feel like I'm at a moment where so much of my life is going to change soon. I may or may not change jobs. I will likely change where I live. I'll likely live with my boyfriend, and all of this will happen within a year. And like, some of that is under my control, some of that is not really under my control, just given like how like medical residency matching works. And so to me it really felt like, oh, like I didn't know what to do, I just knew that I was supposed to be expecting something. And so like the initial conceit of the entire project was like the concept of looking forward, that like I was like thinking about like how did I feel in the moment, how did I feel about thinking about my future, and then how did I think about like my life, and like how did I feel about looking at where my life was gonna go. And I felt like the initial like conceit of this was like I wanted to just like look peacefully up into the sky, because it's like it's something that I want, it's something that I've been waiting for, it's something that like will finally like it'll finally like just end this thing that has been like long distance, which has just been such a huge like defining part of our relationship for so long. And I was both ecstatic but also like wary of like, what does that mean, how does that like, well, what will that change, well, how will my life change, etc. And so like this was the initial end of the series. And then a little while later I started thinking a lot about like, oh, but like that doesn't really say a lot about like how I feel about like the thing that I care the most about, which right now is like my relationship. It's like the reason why I feel like I'm at this like pivotal moment is because so much of my relationship is changing. It's not like, sure, like where I live and like my job are important factors in my life and are things that will change, but it's like the reason all of this is changing, the reason I'm putting all this effort into making this art is because my relationship will change. And so I wanted to make a piece about that, which is like this one that I conceived of. And this one has just changed a ton. I don't think I've ever had like a piece of art that's ever changed this much as I've been doing it. Originally this was like a totally different concept. Like I built the base for this, which is like all cardboard and like plastic wrap that I like hot glued together to make a canvas. And it was supposed to be like a piece about like productivity and like needing like the eye of others to like force me to be productive. And then like I scrapped that once I went on vacation because I realized like, oh, I can be like in a relaxed state on my own and still be productive. It's just not productive in like a capitalist sense. And I was like, okay, great. Like I feel like I can still be a person and like divorce myself from my job. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna scrap that idea. And then months and months later, as I started working on like this looking forward collection, this like turning 25 collection, I talked to a friend and I thought a lot like, oh, like I want to like think more about like love and like what does that mean to me. And so like especially like right now where I'm like thinking about what's gonna happen, and like while I'm like looking forward, I'm also reflecting on like the past and where our relationship has gone up till now. And so I thought a lot about like being in a long distance relationship now for like over 3 years. It's like this isn't the love I think other people want. Like in fact, I think my relationship is very undesirable to other people, which is why like I stuck with this like recycled art theme. It's just like, oh, like yeah, I was willing to take like this little scraps of time and effort and like build something out of it. But it's like realistically most people will think it's garbage, and that's fine. Like I think the more I've talked to my other friends who have like either done long distance or are doing long distance and stuff like that, I'm like, oh, I'm actually very unique in that I kind of like it. And most people seem to really like struggle with it, really hate it. And I'm like, I know I've had some of those phases, but like for quite a while now, I actually like long distance. I think it's actually very healthy. I think it's very like, I think it just really pushes us to communicate in ways that I don't think you normally have to. And I think it also makes you assess like how much do you like your life and how much do you like your relationship outside of just like having like needs fulfilled in the moment. And so like this painting was supposed to be like about like sunset colors and like colors about love, and then like fading into white, which is about so much like our relationship has been framed by distance, hence all like the masks on the frame. And we've made so much to like effort and like so much to make this work, and I think we really love each other, and I think our relationship is really great. And soon we're gonna have to like go into an unknown for us, which is like living together, being in the same vicinity. And wow, that is like daunting and new. That doesn't have to be like a bad thing. And that was kind of the point of the painting. And I stopped there and I was like, oh, like, I don't like that conclusion again. I think, and then I went back to this painting and I was like, oh, like, I felt like this painting initially was like so passive. It's so just me like staring up and not deciding how I want to live. Whereas like I am like making decisions about what I want to do. It's like I am making decisions about how I want to interact with my job, how I want to interact with my friends, how I want to interact with myself. And like there's a lot of agency in that I think was missing in this painting. And so I like made this background like really like blurred so that it's like I was in a fog, but now it's like I am choosing to like look up. I am choosing to look forward to these things. I am like letting myself kind of be more one with the uncertainty, but still kind of having the energy of like, I know I can do this. And this again became the conclusion. And then I changed my mind again to making this conclusion by thinking a lot about like so much of this art series has been about like be struggling with feelings, like thinking about like have once you have something, will it ever be as beautiful as when the object was just out of reach? Whether that be a job, where you live, your relationship, etc. Like, is the pining, is the desire, is the journey to get something always going to be more satisfying because the way you paint something is going to be better than it actually is. And then I decided to kind of address that with this painting by centering these really old Puma shoes that I have. And the point of that was like, sure, like some things are going to be better in your mind because you just paint them in a crystallized way where they lack the nuance and complexity that you will naturally struggle with once you actually have something. But I also think like with love, some love is only possible through like intense contact, through familiarity, through the act of like prolonged love. And I think that's so much of like what I actually appreciate about my boyfriend, especially since we are long distance. It's like so much of my actual interaction with him is really just things I think about him. It's like knowing the facial expressions he would make in a situation, knowing the kinds of jokes, knowing like his little laughs, like all of that I think about, like it permeates my day because I want it to, and because I just love how he is and how we are together, that through just like spending so much time together, even if a lot of it is like apart, I feel like I really feel like so much of that love is like greater than like what I imagined it to be. And so I chose like this specific pair of shoes because I remember when I bought these at like an outlet mall because I'm cheap. I saw them, they were like very different from any other type of shoe I've ever had because they're a little more, I think, interesting because they're like maroon, which is a more unique like shoe color. And I was like, oh, these are very cute. Like the redness kind of reminds me of love. Like I would love to wear these shoes on my first date. And so I like had these lying around my house for like over a year because I just proceeded to not date, which was like a big theme of my life. But I remember like my third time meeting Jasper, I decided to wear these because it was then that I was like, okay, I like this guy a lot. I know I like this guy a lot, and I'm going to ask him out. And I want to be wearing these shoes during that because that's why I bought these things. And so in that moment, they were very special. They have all this like charged energy because it's all this anticipation building to me finally fulfilling the purpose of like why I bought these. And then I did it. I asked Jasper out, like we started dating. It was great. And so they really filled the role that they had. But I've continued to wear these shoes. These are probably like shoes that I wear almost every day. I think it's very clear, like if you look carefully, like the seams are starting to come off. They're like holes. The heel is like starting to rub off. It's like these are really worn in shoes, and it's like my relationship to them has kind of changed. Like sure, they were the shoes that I asked Jasper out in. They were like my first date shoes, but now they are just shoes that I like. They are just shoes that I enjoy, that bring me comfort, that I know I just like going about every day in. And so I can now like marry both of those. It is both the kind of routine love and also like the special first. And I really think that's what my relationship with Jasper is. It's just like, oh, like this is my first relationship. This is the thing I've always wanted and is so special to me. But at the same time, it's just normal. It's just something that we've been doing for like 4.5 years now. It's normal and worn in while also being like magical and wonderful. And so I wanted to center these shoes because it's like, I'm sure as we move into this like new stage of life in the following year, like we'll continue to love each other, and like these shoes, like love is going to adapt and become something else. And that other thing isn't necessarily worse, it's just gonna be different, and it's just gonna be like covered in our fingerprints. It's gonna be like well worn. It's gonna have like layers of dust and then like sweeping off those layers. It's just gonna be a part of our life. And I'm excited for that. I am nervous for that. And oh, so embarrassing. I can't wait to go on that journey. Thank you.